So this is part two of our exploration of the RADAR system, assessing the quality of online information resources, a guide for students, which is specifically designed for business students, and I suppose in an Irish and UK context as well, seeing as we discussed the ABS system in a previous video. In part one of this video, we've looked at the criteria of relevance and authority, and in this one we're going to look at the DAR parts of the RADAR approach, and we'll see some interrelationships between them. One of the things that I think when a lot of students are asked to go and do an overview of a particular area as part of a written assignment, that they tend to come back with resources that might not necessarily be as up to date as they could be. So the D in the RADAR system stands for date, and what Mandalios said in her article is that the important thing is that students develop an automatic date-checking instinct in each information search. Sometimes some information can be too much out of date, sometimes it can be too recent and ignore pieces of theory that other people have looked at. And I'd encourage you to read Mandalios' article on this for more information on it. But just say you've got to do a larger literature review. The first thing that I do is look at the problem or the question that you've been set. And then, when I've done an information search in it, I search out the first, last, and best pieces of information that are relevant to that particular search. So look at the results that you come up with by using an academic search database, and look at the I suppose the first is, where did the theory originate? What were the original thinkers on this theory? What were they interested in? The last is, I suppose, where the most cited research that has been published in the last 5 years or so. Have there been any amendments to it? What are the critiques of the theory? And the best, of course, are the ones that are most cited. Now, if you're doing a social sciences citation search, or if you're using a tool like Business Source Complete to do these, you can sort the results that you get on the basis of their recency, and you can make it, the more recent ones come first, or the ones that, or you can invert that search. And you can also sort your information in terms of the ones that have been most cited over time. So you're able to look at the ones that have been most cited, and so you have this potential to do this work in any information search that you do. The date is important, and it's important to be able to say, say for example, you're looking at a theory in the area of motivation or business ethics, to only discuss the origins of it and not look if there's been a lot of work done of it since. That demonstrates that you haven't done a broad literature review or tried to get a deeper sense of where this information comes from, or how ideas have developed over time and what real academic researchers are doing in their discussions about it. Appearance means, just be very, very clear about what a bona fide piece of research looks like. Physical appearance, if it's a peer-reviewed journal article, it should have full publication data. Typical components in this will have an abstract, an introduction, where the problem is usually stated that's been addressed, or where the research area has been stated. The literature review, which looks at what other people have said about this theory. It's always a really good source for getting other information from. The research method that they've used, the results that they've come up with, and a discussion or a concluding part which talks about the implications of this of the findings of this research. Does it support an existing theory? Does it amend an existing theory? Does it somehow add to something that we already know? What does it tell us about the use of a theory in a different context? And very, very often it identifies few avenues for future research. And these avenues for future research are where we as academic researchers can come in and pick up ideas. If the community has stated that a field requires more development, this is where we can look into it, and this is where we can this is where our colleagues are providing signposts for us to do further research down the line. References, of course, come in all academic articles, and one thing that I think makes everybody suspicious is when people make claims for knowledge to be universally known, or the data, without saying where the data says that such information this is the way that people engage in organizational context or whatever. Now, when people make claims without actually saying who specifically says these things, it immediately sends off an alarm in academic sets to say, well, is this really the case? What do we know about this? Scientifically, has this claim been made in the past? And it's usually made in peer-reviewed academic journals. Source details are accessible through library databases. Look at the databases that I've mentioned. If your library is paying these publishers for these databases, we can generally consider them to be very, very high quality. Established academic publishers, and again, I'm only really speaking in the field of business and management in this area. Publishers like Sage, Taylor Francis, Routledge, Emerald, and of course there are lots of others. But really what I'm trying to say is, rather than saying that some publishers are more credible than others, that just because somebody looks as or claims to be a leading publisher of whatever doesn't necessarily make the case. It doesn't necessarily equate that it is. We mentioned that Radar was a palindrome, that you can use it in different stages. In the previous video, I have spoken about the need to be very, very conscious of the fact that there are lots of publishers now claiming to be the International Journal of Advanced whatever, and to the untrained eye they appear to, that would look very good, but you do need to look at rating systems. You need to look at the such as the one I mentioned, which is the Chartered ABS Journal Ranking Guide for 2015, which is a very good way of verifying these things. And of course, as well, one of the main things that you can do, that if you are, if you're unsure of the veracity of it, is simply ask your lecturers. Ask your lecturers, is this, do you know this source? Do you know if information is produced from it? And from that, you can ascertain whether it should be used or not. So, I mean, this is just a very, very short article. This is a research brief from the Journal of Information Sciences, where I looked at applying Radar with new business postgraduates. You'll see that you've got your publication details up here. You'll always get the institutional affiliation. That one has actually changed to Maynooth University rather than National University of Ireland Maynooth since its publication. They'll contain abstracts, which will give you a very brief outline of what's in the article. Not teasers. They're not trailers for articles. They'll give you a summary, a very concise summary of what actually happens in the article. The keywords that are used in the article usually come in there, and then you'll get, as discussed, some type of introduction where the background is given out. This is a very brief article, so there wouldn't be too much. The research context, where the reason for doing the research and the method was discussed. The results and the research implications there at the end. So this is a very, very brief article, and of course references which come in very importantly. So the final part of the Radar equation is the reason for writing, where we ask ourselves, why has this author written this piece of work? If you're citing something in a journal, you need to be very, very clear that they come from a credible source who's trying to inform you, trying to make a solid contribution to the world of knowledge. Now, we all read lots of different things, and sometimes we might read something that would be, say, for example, designed to help us with a particular problem, if we're stressed, or if we want to become more mindful, or if we've problem with sleep, or want to give up smoking or whatever. Those type of books are written for, the person knows what they're buying, or they knows what they're going to get when they're buying it. They're looking for a specific form of help. So when people are writing books like that, we have to ask, why has the author written this? And these are, I'm not, trying to denigrate those at all. People, need help with different things as they move along. Are they trying to sell something, books or consulting services? In business studies, we have to be really careful about this, because often people are simply trying to sell you their services with their ideas, with their books or with their websites. Another reason is, to tell you something politically, and this is where I completely agree with a market for this. But trying to convince people of something that they may not believe is something that's a little different. If somebody's trying to tell you something for learning purposes, or trying to sell you their or trying to sell you, wrong word, or they're trying to inform you of what their research outputs are. They're trying to communicate results of real research activities. They're trying to, and it's worth bearing in mind that it's in the researcher's personal interest to publish something like this, because this is where our promotion, our job security, even prestige, if that's what you're interested in, come from. This is why we put so much energy into publishing in peer-reviewed journals. You don't get paid for publishing in a peer-reviewed journal. It's a mode of scholarly publication, but this is key to what our personal identity is. Has the author written something because they're trying to get you to buy something else, or they're trying to get you to buy their book, or are they actually trying to inform you of theory and research? If that's the case, focus just on that. That's the type of information that you need to look at when you're looking for the reasons for why people write things. So thank you for listening to this, and thank you again to Dr. Jane Mandalios and to the editors of the Journal of Information Science, which is published by Sage. Once again, the key resources on this. Now I've arranged these alphabetically. As you're supposed to in a literature review by author surname. So there's my own one first there. You want a very, very brief summary. My own work with business postgraduates, and Dr. Mandalios' first article where she explains the entire concept in much greater detail. I encourage everybody to read that. So for more updates on this, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. I do announce whenever these or supporting documentation is released on Twitter as well. And my Twitter handle is at John_G_Cullen.